It's Smoking and Toasting. This is the little program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are on show number 162. We are tasting Bushmills and then asking the question, is Heineken better than craft beer? Now, let me tell you why I asked this. Every week when we get ready to do the show, unless I've been particularly lazy, I usually try to go and spend a few minutes on the internet, seeing if there's any new interesting stories that revolve around, craft beer or cigars or whiskey, something going on out there in the world that might be something we'd want to mention on the program. So I generally type into my Google browser craft beer news. And what I discovered when I did that this week is when I type craft beer news, or I also discovered you can get the same result by just typing craft beer and entering in Google, the first thing that shows up on the page is an ad, as Google sometimes, will sell an ad that'll be the top of the page, and then you get to the search results, right? Well, the ad was for Heineken and a link to the Heineken webpage. But what it said is Heineken, I'm sorry, it didn't say Heineken first. It said better than craft beer, Heineken.com. This is the ad campaign that Heineken appears to be using. Now, I don't know if they're advertising it anywhere else, but on the web, like right there in the ad, it says better than craft beer. Your thoughts, Ian?
I can't stop hitting this. It's hilarious. The more I hit it, the funnier it actually gets.
If you click on it's better than craft beer /Heineken, if you click on it, it directs you right to the Heineken webpage, which, by the way, spends most of its time promoting their zero carb or whatever it is, their Heineken Zero, which is their non-alcoholic, I think.
I have a Heineken story.
Okay.
I was bashing a bit on Heineken at one point in time because Heineken's got the green bottle-itis.
Right.
It's always skunky, and it always tastes skunky, and I can't believe that people drink it because it tastes skunky. It even stinks skunky. Mm-hmm. Like, when you open up a green bottle Heineken, it's like, ugh, it's not a good smell.
Now, I will quote you, though, from the light beer blind taste test that we did when you tasted the Bud Light Lime, and I said, I can't deal with this flavor, and you said, at least there's flavor. I would say that...
But it wasn't skunky.
About Heineken, no, it was.
I mean, it wasn't good. But
it was
wasn't
lemon
skunky.
pledge, but it wasn't. It wasn't skunky.
My favorite part of that, by the way, is that we all said it tasted like lemon pledge. No one caught that it was actually lime.
Oh yeah. It was supposed to be Bud Light Lime. Yeah.
So So anyway, I was Heineken bashing at one point in time, and a friend of mine said, "No, Heineken's not that bad a beer," and I said, "It's always skunky," and he goes, "Well, yes, but that's the green bottle thing. If you actually get it out of a keg." Mm-hmm. Or in a can, it's not skunky. So, oddly enough, within the next couple days, I happened to be in a store that had one of those little mini kegs, and I was going to a party. So I thought, I'll buy one of those. Why not try it, right? It's not bad.
Okay.
Better than craft beer? No, I don't think so. It's just beer. It's not a particularly amazing beer, and it's usually skunky. So I just avoid it at all costs. I think they're reaching a little bit with their better than craft beer. There are a lot of people that drink Heineken for a few reasons. One is it's a little more exotic, but everybody knows what it is. Right. So it's safe exotic, safe German beer. It's available in most places, and of course that hails back to before craft beer was amazing, and even the European side of beer had to start keeping up with the United States. Everyone used to think, well, the only good beer you get is in Europe, right?
Right. So Germany, Austria.
I think they're trying to maybe tap into a little bit of that mentality, but that mentality is not true. You know? I mean, when you're talking about breweries like Guinness, who are starting to make American-style beers to keep up, which, by the way, kudos to them, and all their beers are great. I've tried, I'll try anything from the Guinness brewery, and they do great stuff, but even Guinness is keeping up with the times. Now, that being said, Heineken hasn't put anything out except for their Ultra Light, other than their Heineken, right?
Right.
Heineken Light, zero, which is not good.
Yeah, the Zero.
Yeah,
which is the non-alcoholic, I think.
Right. Well, so they haven't put out anything new in a long time, so they're trying to, it sounds to me like they're trying to revamp something old and make you think of it as kind of new, or maybe so classic that it's better than what's new. And I don't think that they're going to hit it with that, because I think that a lot of people, if you try a Heineken and you try that same style next to almost any local brewery, it's getting its butt whipped.
Yeah.
It just
right.
is.
So is it, in fact, then...
And I got to wonder, too, is because everyone's been drinking skunky tasting Heineken, has skunk just become part of the flavor of Heineken?
Well,
is that like something they have to engineer in because that's what people expect? Because it's kind of skunky, So
would you say then that this is the most bogus macro beer claim since Dilly Dilly?
I would say, and I quote,
I think that takes us where we need to go. Let's go back to talking Bushmills then. This will work a lot better.
Yeah, I just think Heineken, you're overreaching there, buddy.
Yeah,
I think you got
so.
beer, sell it.
I think
somebody
so.
will drink it.
And it kind of reminds me, in my early days of being in radio broadcasting, I remember they would teach you that one of the things that you should do is that you should tell the audience what you want them to believe. So, for example, if you were working at a station and you wanted you wanted your audience to think that you played the most music, you would tell them the most music, and then whatever your
but
station
isn't
was,
it
right?
true that pretty much every station owned by that giant company plays the exact same amount of music every hour?
Yes, but the point is,
I just want to make sure.
But the point is that it never was about whether you actually played the most music or not, or the best music.
And is it like something like 20 minutes of music per hour?
That's
and then
if you're
and
lucky.
40 minutes of
If you're
advertisement.
lucky. Yeah, if you're lucky. But the point is that you would say what you wanted people
right.
to think, and somehow they would magically believe you, which strikes me as what Heineken's trying to do.
Well, yeah. Well, it's a
say
sales
better than
pitch. If
craft
you
beer.
nod and put something in someone's hand, yes, this is good, right? No, the first thing they want to do is nod and go, yeah, and grab for it, right? Yeah, it's a sales pitch.
All right. Well, works for me. Or actually, it doesn't work for me. But that's okay.
It's kind of a ridiculous. Is it better than craft beer? How
No.
is it better than craft beer? What are they even basing that on?
Might be some craft beer that it would be better. Like if you got a really shitty craft beer, Heineken
There's
might
been
be better.
a few. There's been a few.
Well,
Yes.
Heineken might be better. Yeah. Well,
Better than.
better than the worst that craft beer has to offer.
Yeah, I mean,
that
there
didn't-
has to be a
that didn't
disclaimer
ring-
in there
that
somewhere,
didn't sound
right?
as good in the ad meetings. So, all right. So let's talk something that is good. Let's talk Bushmills. We have tried 2 of your blended whiskeys. You brought 3 blendeds and 3 that are single malt, correct?
Yep.
So what is the blended that you saved for last then?
So this is going to be our Black Bush. Now, Black
So
Bush
we did
is
Red Bush, we did original, and now Black Bush.
Black Bush.
Okay.
Now, Black Bush has remained unchanged since 1898. This, in the words of our master blender, again, Helen Mulholland, she calls us her lovable rogue. So Black Bush is significantly different. It's what we call the 3/8.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be 8 years old. It's going to be 80% single malt. And it's going to be 80% Oloroso Spanish sherry cask.
Okay.
So we're now going to use a completely different style of wood.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you should notice 80% single malt for a blended whiskey. For
That's
any
a pretty
blended
high
whiskey.
percentage of single malt,
Yeah,
right?
it's next to being unheard of. It's phenomenal.
That's almost not blended at that point.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
You're only 20% away from
Right.
not being blended. Yeah.
And the big thing is that sherry cask is very, very robust.
Now, I noticed that in the first 2 blendeds came with the screw-off cap, but here we have transitioned to a cork. Is there, other than just, obviously we're getting into a slightly more expensive bottle, and maybe that seems classier, is there another reason for this being a cork?
It's, well, once we get into it, this will make a little bit more sense. The Black Bush is a lot richer, and the Black Bush, the finish on there, it lasts for 30 seconds minimum. I mean, you're still getting a hint of it past 45 seconds, even let it linger just by a minute. Whereas with these, now, no one should drink at a faster pace or drink more than they should. Just to
Disclaimer.
clear the water. But these are going to be consumed at a faster pace than the Black Bush because there is so much in there. You'll take a glass and you'll even lean back and just sip, savor, and watch. So if something does take a longer time to go through, well, you're going to have that cork. And then the best thing is that whenever you do, this makes it so much more special.
And it's a great sound, too.
Yeah.
It really
that's
is.
that's how you
that.
know
Yeah.
something special is coming along.
So what I love about what you're saying is it gets into one of the things we talk about quite a bit here on the show, which is that it's one thing to drink alcohol or a great cocktail or, just a good sort of, lager beer or something. But what we really love, what we love sharing with people is when it's more about the sipping and it's more about just kind of leaning back, savoring something. It's about the experience. It's a part of what appeals to all of us about the world of cigars. It's just that ability to just kind of relax. As Ian so brilliantly has said on the show, you can't hurry up and smoke a cigar. And I think kind of the higher the quality that you go with the whiskey, the more that begins to apply to. You don't want to hurry up. You want to just chill and let it offer you that experience.
Yeah. And this one, well, you'll see.
I've talked myself into this experience.
Where did Black Bush get its name?
So remember when I said this came about in 1898?
Yes.
So in 1898, in Ireland, particularly the north coast of Ireland, gas lighting was everywhere in bars. Now, whenever this is a gaslit bar and you've got something matured inside an Oloroso sherry cask, well, this comes up nearly black in colour compared to everything else.
So
that
under the gaslight.
Yeah, under the gas lighting.
Okay.
Whenever it's on the shelf of the bar, that's coming out nearly black in colour. And remember, by 1898, not a lot of distilleries were using sherry casks.
Right.
Remember, by 1898, Irish whiskey was the king of the world. Scottish whiskey was the second one. Scottish whiskey is the one that you only went for if you had to. It was American Prohibition that changed everything. On top of that, there was the coffee still invention, which weirdly was an Irish invention, but then the Scots realised it was more efficient. They're a very tight set of people.
And they adopted it, yeah.
Oh, yeah, because they like to cut things, they like to save things, they like to cut corners where they can. And the coffee's still perfect for doing that. But it was a combination of those two things that demised Irish whiskey. But remember, by this stage, 1898, Irish whiskey was the number one chosen whiskey throughout the world. Now, the Black Bush, the good things that you've already been sipping it. And this is the thing I love. Whenever you get a whiskey a little more complex, a little bit richer, I want someone to have the first sip on their own terms. Because you'll just see that radical change. And I already see it in the body language from the two of you.
Yeah.
So the nose is bigger, it's fuller. A sherry cask is inherently very dry, very nutty. Remember I kept saying our distillate is very light, very floral, very fruity. Peaches, pear drops, and a little bit of red apple. Now you marry those two together, you're going to get this Christmas cake. You're going to get this fruit cake. You're going to notice whenever you take a little sip,
this
just glides across the palate.
Yeah, this is so nice the way it does. The funny difference with this one is the fruit hits first.
Yes.
Like it really
very
hits at the
fruit
beginning.
forward. I agree.
And then you're so right about that lingering aftertaste and a little bit of that heat, what I like to call the whiskey hug, comes back and it's just there for a long time.
Maybe it's something that happens to me as I get older. But the older I get, the more I am about savoring the moments of life. And the more that I enjoy, whether it's a great meal at a restaurant or whether it's, a great whiskey or a great cigar, it's about being able to just really kind of soak it in and go, this moment may not come again. Let's experience this for all it's worth. Whereas, when I was in college, it was about how many shots can we do, and let's just grab the cheapest hamburgers or tacos that we can grab or whatever. The whole quality versus quantity thing has to do with savoring the experience, and so this is where we move into a whiskey that I feel like really kind of creates that vibe when you sip it. It really is a sipping whiskey, not a drinking whiskey, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, do you understand what I was saying earlier?
Yes.
That finish, you get the build up of flavour after about 10, 15 seconds in the jawline, and that wee gentle glow just comes at the back of the throat, and it just rumbles on through. Now, weirdly, the best way I enjoy drinking a Black Bush, I mean, this is very much Irish weather, if we minus the heat and humidity. But in Belfast, in most of the bars, what we did was what we called a serve of a black and black. A black pint and a Black Bush. Now, if you're in Belfast, you can imagine, what is that black pint? It's a stout.
Right.
I'm not going to say the brand name. You are more than welcome to. But you get a pint of that. You get a Black Bush inside. Well, if you rush that famous style of black Irish stout, well, you're probably going to see it back again. So you're going to take
Spoiler
your
alert,
time.
he's talking about Guinness.
And but with Blackbush, because it is so rich, you're not going to rush that, and it's an internal reaction. You're not going to rush something that's that rich.
No, you're right.
And the two side by side, black and black.
Instinctively,
really well together.
instinctively, we slowed down, and it's not like we were gulping the first two, but like instinctively, you just take it a little slower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the
Totally
flavors
works.
on this are so complex, and they last so long on the palate. Like, I'm still tasting from before you started
for
that
sure. Yeah.
that whole explanation, and it's still there, and I kind of like that about it. And it also, this has a little more of that, a little more oiliness that really spreads it across the palate and gives it a little, I usually call it kind of a buttery, you've been referring to it as a creaminess, but it really, really does spread out and just linger on the palate in such a nice way.
So that buttery note, because we've increased the malt, that butteriness. So our distillate, no, you're not meant to drink it when you're in the still house, but there's times that
Things happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you dip your finger in, and whenever you taste it, obviously the fruit's straight there, but we distill up to about 83%, so it's 166 proof. So it evaporates within a second or two, but you're left with this butteriness. And that butteriness that you mentioned is going to keep increasing as we go up to do the malt content
Nice.
as well.
Nice.
So, now I will admit, as we move on to the next one, that I am a little bit worried about pairing. Not that we're trying to pair it, but I am a little bit worried about going to an IPA after this, because this is such a different world we're living in right now.
But with their tenure, we're going back to a very light style.
Okay.
So we could actually be saved.
All right.
So,
all right.
but
So
we'll see.
so let's go there next. Let's go
Yeah.
with the 10-year.
So the 10-year.
This is the first of these that we're trying that's a single malt.
Yeah, 100% single malt. This is going to be what we call a two-wood whiskey.
Okay.
What that simply means is that we've got whiskey maturing for 10 years inside a bourbon barrel, whiskey maturing for 10 years inside a sherry cask. It's a side-by-side maturation, simultaneous maturation. Only at the end of the minimum of 10 years maturing do we marry those two whiskeys together.
But because they came from the same malt,
Same malt.
it continues to
Be a single malt.
be a single malt.
Yeah.
Now, explain to someone who might not know, there's sort of a general perception that a single malt whiskey would be superior to a blended whiskey. Is that really true? And if so, why would that be? What about it would be better?
Not always. You can get some great blended whiskies out in the market. Just because it's single malt, just because it's more expensive, has nothing to do with the better quality. I mean, people ask me, what's my favourite whiskey out of the range? The amount of times I'm going for either sometimes Red Bush or Original, because I'm in a busier environment. If I'm in a busier environment, I'm not going to get the benefit of these more complex, more delicate malts.
It's something that's designed to be really savory.
Those are more
and quality.
slow down or special occasion almost, where you can sit down and really enjoy
Agreed.
it.
And then there's some distilleries that just get it wrong. They just didn't come out the way it should have. Particularly whenever you get distilleries that are doing batches, because you've probably noticed we do consistent bottling. We don't do a year. We don't do a batch. We always guarantee this will taste the same today, tomorrow, 5 years, 20 years, 30 years, even on your deathbed.
Right.
This will always
It's not like
taste
a
the
wine
same.
with a vintage
Exactly.
that could be where the 95 could be different from the 96.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but the challenge for us, and I'll let you do the honors.
Okay.
The challenge for us is the fact whiskey keeps changing, climate keeps changing. And to balance this flavour out, this is really actually Helen's hardest job. And this is Helen's favourite whiskey because it is the most delicate we produce. It's the hardest to get right every single time. And yet she manages it.
Well, so whiskey blenders in general, it's a fascinating art form that there's so many variables. It actually kind of breaks my brain a little bit trying to wrap my head about it.
I have no clue how they
because
pull it off.
what you're talking about here is you're talking about this is going to taste the same no matter what. You're talking about an organic thing that your ingredients change. Like your grain can never be exactly the same. Like even if it's grown in the same place from year to year, there's going to be little differences. And you have to come up with the same flavor and consistency every single time, no matter how much like the weather had an effect on how your grain grows and how your malt
Well, plus, if you
turns
think
out,
about
stuff like that.
just think about the soil. I mean, crops have to be rotated because of the very reason that this year's wheat crop is not going to pull the same stuff out of the same soil as last year's wheat crop. So you have to rotate, and then that's going to cause changes. I mean, everything induces change to this whole dynamic, and that's what's amazing about a master distiller is they're able to somehow compensate for that.
With that, with that list of variables, they can still put out that bottle that tastes the same every single time. We're so close that mere mortals that don't have that kind of palate will never be able to tell the difference.
Right. And I wonder sometimes, when you see someone go into a bar and they order, the most expensive single malt that the bar carries, you wonder sometimes, sure, obviously they've got the money to spend on it, but are they able to comprehend what they're paying for? So you wonder sometimes,
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure I do in the most extreme of cases, but the more I've tried, the more I've learned, the more I've been able to tell the difference and appreciate it.
I think whenever you're getting to whiskies that are going into that 20-year period, close to it, you need to be in the right environment. And for me, that's a hotel lobby. And a fine hotel lobby, particularly 5-star, where they've got the little areas that you can't be discovered for half an hour. You've got the style of chair you can sink back into. You've got the area that no one's going to find you, no one's going to bother you. Well, then that's the best place to enjoy a complex single malt, because you're already in that, very luxurious environment.
Yep.
And you're in that moment, and that moment will also, yes, it'll feed into how great the whiskey is, but you need time, you need space, you need to be away from different aromas, you need to be away from people. You need to discover it at your own time and place as well. Now, have you seen with the 10-year that it is a lot lighter? It is predominantly bourbon
It
barrel,
is lighter, yeah.
but the maltiness really comes out now. You're going to get that fruitiness is probably the most prominent now, and it's the ripe fruit. Whenever you take that sip, that honeyedness not only coats the lips, but it coats the entire front of the tongue.
And it's the first one of these where I've detected, and not as much as you might get in your typical Scottish whiskey, but it's the first one where I've detected a little bit of that minerality that you often get from a single malt, a little bit of that, like you said,
Tastes
a little bit
more of the water, so to speak.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. Yes, it's this is, I think, though, very accessible. I mean, it's in its own way, it's just as accessible as the Red Bush is.
Yeah,
but it's just a different thing to access.
Yeah, I mean, like, for it being so light, this is actually my summertime whiskey. So weirdly, in the space of 24 hours, the weather changing here, this is the whiskey I was reaching for yesterday. Even dinner last night, we got an insane amount of oysters. And one of the best things that we've done in the past is actually we get a bottle of 10-year, we freeze it. Obviously it's 80 proof alcohol, so it doesn't go solid, but it comes out
syrupy,
real viscous. So you've closed off the alcohol notes, and you see that honeyed note there. See, whenever you cool it down, and particularly when you freeze it, it comes out so much more prominent. So whenever you always get northeast coast oysters, because the ones down here in the Gulf, I don't know.
I don't eat Gulf oysters.
I look at them and it's like, how is this going to happen?
I don't eat Gulf oysters.
It's not going to go down.
I enjoy life. I don't need Gulf oysters. But the North Point,
northeast coast.
Yes.
And just as it's getting served, so sometimes we've had it where we get one server coming out with the oyster, second server with the frozen bottle of 10. As it's being served, just one by one, just pour a little bit of 10-year over, and down it goes. And
I
wow,
bet that's good.
Oh wow,
I bet that's
it's something else. I mean, even when I had friends over and we'd still the heat back in Jersey City, I've got a great rooftop overlooking New York City, and I put this in a wine cooler. So I keep it in the fridge for maybe about 6-7 hours. Put it in a wine cooler, go up to the roof, get a few of the boys round, and we just sit back. We get some of the cigars, and we just relax and enjoy that. Nice. It's a cool whiskey. Now, whiskey's personal. There's no right or wrong way to enjoy it. Right. Whiskey's always personal. The way someone enjoys it is the right way for them. But I do find the 10 years too delicate for ice. Ice could overpower those really delicate notes.
Well, the cold in general will mask a lot of flavors too. So, but how does it do with a little water?
A little water, okay. Yeah, if you've got some water,
a drop or two.
Yeah.
Do you have your bottle of water over there, Ian? I don't have
a bottle of water.
All right, we'll have to try this maybe in the next segment then, so we can see how it might change that up, because you're right. I'm guessing it would change it up a little bit. Although, this is not a real sort of a heavier flavor, heavy mouthfeel. So I would guess that the water would mellow it out just a little more, maybe make it a little butterier.
You'd be surprised.
Really?
This is one of the best things about Bushmill single malts is that what you expect is
Not
not
necessarily
what's
where
gonna
it
happen.
goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I want to put this with like an Aladino, Connecticut, or even a La Polina Candela. What's that Candela they had? I bet that would go amazing with this.
No, I think you're right. And that the Aladino, Connecticut, how great would that be as a pairing? Oh, that would just be terrific. Well, speaking of pairing,
Lovely, sir.
thank you. Two of our favorite breweries, Ecliptic Brewing out of Portland, Oregon, and Bell's out of Michigan, have been collaborating for 5 years. 5 years, 5 beers is what this is called. It's a juicy IPA. This may be completely different than anything we've tasted on the show, but I'm pouring a little bit of it. And the first thing I'm going to notice about it is it looks much less hazy than I was expecting.
You would expect for a hazy IPA for it to be a little more hazy.
Yeah. Well,
It's hazy.
In fairness, it doesn't describe itself as hazy. It
But
describes itself as juicy. So
Oh, well, there's that. But I think we're used to also seeing a lot of the newer juicy / hazy IPAs looking like orange juice.
right, and certainly a lot of them do. This one though comes in a little bit more like a traditional looking IPA. So,
Wow, orange on the nose, big time.
Well, let's see what it says on the bottle about this. It just says 5 years, 5 beers. It says, in celebration of our 5th year of passage through this awesome star system we call home, we're teaming up with 5 esteemed breweries to brew 5 beers of cosmic significance. So I was wrong about this. It's not that they've done a collaboration for 5 consecutive years. It's in celebrating at Ecliptic their 5th year. They decided to team up with 5 different breweries. This is the one they did with
there you
Bell's. So it says, space can be a bit lonely too, so here's to making the journey with friends. Brewed with Bell's owner Larry Bell and brewers John Mallett and Tim Gossick. Ecliptic Brewing, Portland, Oregon, Earth.
This is like a juice cocktail. I taste grapefruit on the back end of this big time. A lot of orange right up front. There's a malt factor that happens right in the middle of this that's really interesting. This is almost as if Stone decided to make something juicy and it got weird.
And it got weird.
Yeah, and it's pretty good. I like it, actually.
I love this. I think it's fantastic. It is on the finish. So when you take it first, like the first flavors that hit your tongue are sort of that mixed citrus. You get a little bit of the orange but what I'm getting, and it could be because of the Bushmills, but what I'm getting on the finish is that really almost sour grapefruit, like the really almost bitter grapefruit, but bitter in a good way, not a bad way. This is really interesting. One of the most complex IPAs I've had in a while.
It's not a pine cone kind of bitterness to it at all. It's more of
it's like a juicy slice of grapefruit.
Grapefruit zest almost kind of bitterness, yeah.
Right. Very, very much that.
How are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, no, it's orange in the nose. Grapefruit just carries through, always through the back. But I find a little bit of lemon rind on the side.
Yes.
I can go with that.
It's those 3 citrus fruits are just so prominent. Now, I do believe that malty note has probably been amplified by the 10 year. Because if we didn't have the maltiness of the 10,
that could be,
our palate maybe not have been so...
Not as attuned to it.
Exactly.
Right.
This is 8.5%, so it's a little higher than your standard IPA, which is usually 6.5 to 7. But it's, I think it's really good. Again, just so you just know, Jack, I mean, Ian tends to be the guy on the show that leans a little more towards the stouts and the maltier things, which I also like, but I'm the guy that's crazy for IPAs, so it's always interesting to me when I bring an IPA on the show that Ian likes.
Yeah, this definitely goes on the list of IPAs I like.
Yeah.
So I would
I
would give it that. And it's funny because it's got that bitterness, but it's not a resiny bitterness. It's a fruity bitterness.
No, it's not a hop bitterness. It's more like a grapefruit bitterness.
But it is very hoppy on top of all that.
Yes, it is. So. Yes, it is, without question. Well, we've made it through all but 2 of the Bushmills, so we'll be back with one more segment here in just a moment. And in that segment, we will not only taste 2 more single malts, the 16 and the 21, and no spoiler here, but Jack's already hinted that the 16 may be my favorite. Yep. See?
Going by the ethos of the show.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll see how that works out. Plus one more beer. It's the White Devil, the Imperial White Ale. And I'm really curious as to how this one's going to match up. So we'll be looking forward to that in our final segment. Coming up next, you are checking out Smoking and Toasting.